Well, good morning and welcome back to a glorious morning here in Cambridge. Now today I want to do a bit of a public service announcement because today is going to be the hottest day of the year here in the UK. So today is likely to be the hottest day of the year, and not just the hottest day of this year, probably the hottest day ever recorded here in the UK. Temperatures in this part of the world are expected to get to about 36 degrees. Elsewhere in the country, we might even see 40. For those that still use the old system, 99, 100 degrees, that kind of thing. Now, I know a lot of you are laughing and saying, that's not that hot. Just remember, 99% of houses in the UK don't have air conditioning. So it's pretty hot, it's pretty humid, and most people are kind of done with it. But anyway, today I wanted to give you a bit of a public service announcement. Now, let me give you the backstory. So it's been like this for the last couple of days. It's been warm, it's been, I would say, slightly humid, just enough to make you feel uncomfortable. And I noticed when I was looking at my solar generation stats that my inverter seems to be working at about 90% of what it's capable of. Now, you'd expect on a day like this, when there is not a cloud in the sky, it would be cranking out 100%. Now, we know solar panels lose a little bit of efficiency when they get too hot. Please, please, please don't go spraying water on your solar panels. You can end up just cracking them because they get too hot. But my problem wasn't the panels, it was the inverter itself. So let's head into the garage and let me explain. Hang on 2 seconds. We've got a bear alert. Hey bear, hello. As you can imagine, if you've got a big, thick fur coat, this time of the year is utterly miserable for Bernese mountain dogs. However, these guys are experts at seeking out the cool, dark, the best places in the house to be. So when I'm feeling a little bit too hot, I go find where the dogs are lying and go sit next to them. Anyway, let's head into the garage and let me show you what I did. So if I just turn the camera around, I'll give you a hint. Now let me explain. So this is my 10 kilowatt SolarEdge inverter. We are now on Octopus Flux. This means that basically I run my entire day off of my batteries. I don't import hardly anything from the grid. I basically run the batteries down all the way to 5 o'clock in the morning. When the sun comes out, they start to charge back up again. And they just steadily fill all 3 of these SolarEdge power banks, and the inverter does its thing. Then at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I send an instruction to the inverter and say, start dumping these to the grid, because that's when I get paid the most money to do it. And I noticed the inverter was getting very, very hot. Let's go back outside. I'll show you the charts and I'll explain what adding a little fan like this does and how this can help improve the efficiency of your inverter. Okay, so let me show you what I found. Now, I'm going to log into my Home Assistant here, and I'm just going to head across to take a look at my inverter. Now, the SolarEdge app is pointless. It shows you how much the system is generating about 20 seconds ago, but other than that, it doesn't tell you anything about the health of the system. For that, you really need Home Assistant and this third-party plugin, which I use, called Modbus Multi. Now, if I scroll down, you'll see at the bottom of this is the inverter we're looking at, there is a temperature sensor. This is the sensor that is inside the inverter itself. And this was yesterday. So if you look, during the day, from the morning, we started, the inverter temperature was about 40 degrees, and it slowly ramped up during the day as the temperature in the garage got hotter. The inverter itself is passively cooled. It has a large heat sink on the back, which lets the air flow up the back. But if the air flowing up the back is already warm as you can imagine, it's not going to help the inverter out. And then we see at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we start exporting. That's what that small lump is, where we're exporting probably about 3 to 4 kilowatt hours at that point. But then that massive lump is when the inverter kicks in and starts dumping 10 kilowatts. And you can see the temperature shot straight up to 80 degrees. It was so hot, I couldn't put my hand on the front of it. So I had a quick look at it, realized what the problem was, and I placed the fan underneath. And that valley you can see there, that wasn't the fan. That was 1 hour of export. I shut it down, I let it cool down a little bit. Then I started it back up and it rose straight back up to 80 degrees. Then what you can see from the top of the chart there at about 7:10 was when I put the fan on. And immediately it started to drop the temperature of the inverter because it was creating an airflow across the heatsink and moving the heat out from the back of the inverter. Now, this is just a short video I shot on my phone here. You can see from the temperature sensor that is in the garage, the air temperature in the garage was 35.5 degrees. So that was 35 degrees before it had gone behind the inverter and up through the heatsink. I ran the fan for about 15 minutes, and as you can see, the temperature fell right off. It fell off from about 80 degrees down to about 65, which is about its normal operating temperature when it's dumping out large amounts of energy. And then obviously once the export had finished, the temperature dropped back down to run at about 40 degrees. I'd highly recommend going and checking your own inverters, because if, like mine, they're in a garage where there's not a great amount of airflow, just adding a small fan to push some air across that heatsink might dramatically increase the performance of your inverter on these really, really hot days. Anyway, that's my video today. Short and sweet. Hope you found this useful. If you did, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. And if I'm lucky, I'll see you back here real soon for another video. Take care. Bye-bye.